This is lesson 2.22. In this lesson, we will cover emigration, colonization, and anti-immigration ideas that emerged in the 18th and 19th century. In a previous lesson, we learned about Paul Cuffy, the black abolitionist and wealthy Boston shipping magnate who offered to use his own money to send free black Americans back to Africa if they wanted to return. This gesture made Paul Cuffy the first proponent of emigration, the idea that African Americans would be more prosperous outside of the United States than in it. While few people took Cuffy up on his offer, it did get the attention of white slave owners, including James Madison, who increasingly saw the idea of relocation to Africa as a possible solution to the problem of free black people, whose tendency to lead resistance movements was threatening to their business. It also attracted white abolitionists who depicted themselves as saviors helping Africans return to their homeland. This strange alliance between white abolitionists and slaveholders led to the creation of the American Colonization Society, which used federal funds to literally colonize part of West Africa called Liberia, where free black people could be returned. While the society never forcibly moved anyone, it was basically a racist organization which had no black leadership, served the interests of slave owners, and characterized black people as too savage and degraded to succeed in the United States. Black leaders didn't support the colonization society, but they didn't all agree that staying in the U.S. was the right call either. As slavery was abolished in South and Central America and in the West Indies, some suggested, as Paul Cuffy had, that emigration might result in better opportunities for African descended people. One of those voices was Martin R. Delaney, who wrote in 1852 that Black Americans should emigrate to Central America. Delaney saw Black Americans as a nation within a nation and is considered the father of Black nationalism, which emphasizes unity, pride, and self reliance among Black people. He was also an abolitionist who had worked with Frederick Douglass to publish the North Star, an influential abolitionist newspaper. He was the first Black student admitted to Harvard University, but he was expelled after 3 weeks due to protests among white students. During the Civil War, he even advised Abraham Lincoln on the value of recruiting Black combat troops and became the first Black field officer in the U.S. Army, rising to the rank of major. Martin Delaney's experiences of Black pride as well as racial discrimination shaped his emigrationist views, and he wrote that Black Americans would be more prosperous outside of the United States. He did not rule out Africa, but he believed that Central and South America also held great promise, as they were home to many African descended people, had good climates for agriculture, and were steadily moving toward the abolition of slavery. However, not all Black leaders agreed with Delaney's emigrationist ideas. In particular, his old publishing partner, Frederick Douglass, rejected emigration as a viable option. Douglass believed that the United States could be transformed into a country that lived up to its stated values of liberty and equality, but that this would only happen if Black people stayed and fought for those values. He said that without struggle, there can be no progress, meaning that it would take commitment and sacrifice to change America, but that it would be worth it when Black people could partake in the wealthy and powerful country they had done so much to build. Ironically, Frederick Douglass did have to flee the country he thought was worth fighting for, as fugitive slave laws made him a target of recapture. After he published his highly successful autobiography in 1845, his identity was exposed, and he moved temporarily to Great Britain to avoid being hunted down and re-enslaved. But he continued his work from there and returned to the U.S. after English abolitionists formally purchased his freedom.